All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Wisdom's Global Leadership Challenge sessions. I'm joined today with some amazing guests all the way from around the world. So it's a really global community, and excited to get started on this. My name is Doyle Bueller, and I'm based in Perth. And together with myself and how many do we have? 6 of us. I'll get into all of the people that are involved here, just so I don't forget anybody. We've got Scott Kundal, we've got Trevor Nell, who's joining us today, Ivan Anderson, who's not here today, Sally Anderson, who's here joining us, Lee Harrison, and Kim Adele Platt as well. So together we're putting on the Wisdom's Leadership Masterclass. And these are kind of conversations around that whole concept of leadership and what we can be doing differently and what can be doing better, rather. And the whole conversation we want to open up to everybody as well. So if you're watching this now, please join in the conversation. We'd love to hear what you have to say. If you have questions or whatever the case may be, happy to chat about those today. And today what we're going to be talking about is specifically the empathetic leader. Do we need to be a tough leader? Do we need to be an empathetic leader? And also, how do we play in all of the leadership qualities and needs with mental health as well? So it's going to be a great discussion, a little quick discussion too, maybe 20 minutes or so. So we want to kind of keep on top of the topics and make sure we're talking about what's current and what's really, really important as well. So again, if you're watching live, please ask some questions or some comments and that sort of thing. If you're watching replay, then just hashtag replay and ask your question as well, and we'll get back to it as soon as you can. So without further ado, I'd love to invite the guests for today as well. So we have Trevor, Kim Adele, and Sally as well. So welcome, everybody.
Hey.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
All right. So who would like to start? Trevor, just give you're in my top right. So give us a quick little introduction. And then Kim.
So I'm a ball player, and I know these New Zealanders actually play well with the ball. So I'm passing the ball straight to Sally because I'd love her to kickstart this. This is an important topic, and I know it's framed through Sally. So Sally, go, and then I'll introduce myself at the back. Ladies first.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Trevor. Always the gentleman.
So I'm going to dovetail this with an intro on who I am, and then I'm just going to, I just felt to frame the conversation today, it would be great to get some statistics and then kind of like frame the conversation, and then we'll be able to kind of like speak into this. I just want to acknowledge who's on the call today. I call Trev the godfather of leadership. So Trev, Kim, you couldn't find anybody better in the context of bloody imposter syndrome at the high-end aspect of leadership. So really excited about her being on the call today. And our Doyle, I tell you what, if you got anything going on from the digital space, and I'll tell you what, that is the future of where we're headed. If you can't navigate what the hell you're doing online, there's a bit of an issue with where we're headed in business. So just the caliber of the people on the call today, just want to acknowledge that. I am based in Aotearoa, New Zealand, one of the best places on the planet, but biased. I specialize in what I term leadership or I specifically specialize in coaching political leaders, high-end global influencers, high-end CEOs, fish tanks from the head down, no offense. And I kind of like operate as kind of like the invisible coach and behind the scenes of those making a profound difference on the planet. So I want to acknowledge Kim because what I'm about to share with you actually came from an article that she shared with me. And I've been using it a number of times because some of the statistics in this document are just profound. So thank you, Kim. And as I said, I think the content of these statistics will really frame a lot of the discussion that we're going to have today. So in an article that was written by HBR, and it was entitled, "People Want Their Employees to Talk About Mental Health." It stated that 200 million workdays are lost due to mental health, 16.8 billion in employee productivity, and 60% of employees never speak about their mental health status. That segues nicely into an article, Forbes magazine. It was a LinkedIn research study, 700 executives throughout the UK, Europe, about navigating the global pandemic and what they were coming up against. And it was about The research revealing the rise in executive imposter syndromes. God, that's going to cue you well there, Miss Adele. Platt. So check out these stats, people. Unbelievable. 69% of leaders found that the COVID situation, the pandemic, is the most challenging of their career. 32% are making their employees redundant. 42% are having to introduce pay cuts. 62% staff furloughs. 72% struggling to answer questions. These leaders don't know how to answer the questions from their shareholders, their board, 72%, that's really high. 52% are doubting their ability. This is all at the leadership level, CEO level. 74% struggling to be optimistic and cheerful through this period. 58% are virtually challenged operating online. 56% feel that they are harmed ongoingly with reference to what they're experiencing from a mental health perspective. 37% are finding it difficult to switch off. 41% are experiencing higher stress levels. And a quarter of them are experiencing imposter syndrome more than they've ever experienced. Gets better. 74%, their entire leadership style has had to change. 67% feel that there's going to be a lasting impact post this pandemic. 44% are having to learn and demonstrate these so-called soft skills. They're hardly soft, but the human skills. 29% have had to divert to online learning. 25% are eliciting management consultancy advice. 23% are eliciting executive coaching advice. 69% are experiencing a closer working relationship due to the challenges that they're experiencing. 45% are experiencing more communication within the workforce. 74% are stating that there is a need for a greater level of transparency. 72% are finding that they are needing to be more considerate between employees, bosses. 60% are having to restructure. 64% are becoming more fairer with being more equitable in the workplace. The last two stats, people, 32% believe that due to the challenges that they're having to improve their diversity, and 39% are having to introduce more flexible working hours.
Wow.
So as far as the discussion is today, my area of interest is, mental health in the workforce is one thing. And to me, no offense to anybody listening right now, but it's true that it's kind of like a compliance issue. Oh, Jesus, we've got to deal with that bloody mental health thing versus genuine concern about having to deal with this. It's not just something that you tick the box on anymore. And my concern is who's dealing with mental health for politicians? Who's dealing with mental health for the high-end CEOs? The expectation is supposed to be superhuman, and it's unrealistic. And these are the people governing our countries. These are the people governing our economy. And yet we're not talking about mental health at the most senior level of leadership, which I believe is a key concern for the evolution of us, within humanity or within the human race. So I'm excited about today's topic. I'm excited about everybody's perspective on the topic. I personally believe that there is a need for support more than there ever has been, which is hence the reason why we've put together this masterclass. And that mental health is should not be something that is continued to be stigmatized. It is something that needs to be broadened within the spectrum of the workforce. So if you haven't reviewed your EAP programs, employee assistance programs, if you haven't brought transparency to your leadership development programs, started opening up discussions, if you're not doing surveys across your entire organization with reference to where people are at, because people will not come to you, they won't talk about it because it's the fear of losing their jobs, especially at the highest level, which is the irony. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. Just segue in there, people, and then I'll interject at different times. But first of all, thank you, Kim, for those stats, unbelievable stats, and let's dance from there.
Thank you, Sal. I appreciate that. I was going to say, can we maybe post the stats like on the replay as well? Can we get those? Yeah, because there's so many of them. And oh, please.
I'll post the full article.
Excellent. No, thank you, Sally, for getting us started. Trevor, you want to jump in? Or actually, sorry,
I was
ladies.
just going to say, go, Sally, go, Sally, go. And I'm really going to step back here because I'm sucking in this information. I've got thoughts that I want to share, but I'd love for Kim to come in because I think it's the correct slot for Kim just to follow through from Sally on that intro.
Yeah, please.
Bless you. Thank you. So, yeah, I'm Kim Adele. I've spent the last 30 years in corporate life. In the last 15 doing transformational change and exec coaching at the highest level. And you're right, the stats are terrifying, but the reality is even worse. When we think about it, we knew it was going to be lonely at the top, but it's never been less quiet. You're being beset on all sides from emerging technology, the advancements of digitalization, the changing requirements that we've got of the generations that we are leading. And on top of that, we've layered in a global pandemic, a move from face-to-face working to having to work totally remotely. And then where do you go? If you're at the top of your game, who do you go to if you're not sure, if you need a sounding board? Because you can't ask the board because they may lose confidence in you. And you can't ask your direct reports because they're looking to you for your support. So where do you go? And I think this is where we're seeing a challenge. And I love the topic around, should we be empathetic or should we be tough? In my personal opinion, being empathetic is tougher than being non-empathetic. And what happens when we're in these situations, and I've unfortunately ran 7 major redundancy programs in my career, when you do something like that, it's heartbreaking. If it isn't heartbreaking, you shouldn't be leading. But what happens is you make it about you, not about the other person, because you know that it is not going to be a positive message. Nobody in my experience has ever gone, yay, redundancy, sign me up. So you go out to deliver something like that, knowing that there's a little bit of guilt, because if you hadn't led better, maybe, just maybe, if you'd have led in a more productive manner, you wouldn't be in this situation. So you feel guilty, you feel a bit of shame, and then your message isn't going to go down very well. No one's going to like it. So what happens is we feel under attack as that leader, and you go into those conversations, and because you feel under attack, the best form of defense is attack. So we change our language, we change our tone, we change our intonation, and as a result, we have a devastating impact on everybody involved. I remember standing up in front of my first one ever and saying to this room full of people, the first thing I need you to understand is it's not about you. And let me explain what I mean by that. It's not about you, it is happening to you. Everybody here is impacted. At the end of what I have to say, you are going to have to live with the message that I've just delivered. But the reason I say it's not about you is it's not because you're not an amazing employee. It's not because I wouldn't love for you to continue to work for me for the rest of your life. It's because I'm ashamed to say I couldn't lead us to a position that doesn't need this to happen. I couldn't get us to a place where we didn't have to make cuts. But as a leader, my job is to keep as many jobs going as I possibly can. And the reality is I can't keep them all. So my options are I downsize and save as many jobs as I can, which is why I'm having this conversation today, or I say nothing and the company goes bust. And I can't live with that because that's even more jobs that I've lost. But I need you to know it's not about you, because unless you take that step, unless you step into it and own the challenge, what happens is those people walk out of those conversations and they think that they're not a good employee, that they weren't worthwhile, that they weren't ready, that it's going to happen to them again. And they make that their future. They make that their reality. So I think we have to be empathetic, but you've got to be tough. I mean, wrong. It's not an easy thing to stand in front of 1,800 people and have that conversation. I promise you, I've done it. But we have to do that. To do it, we've got to be able to give our leaders the right support. They've got to have somebody in their corner that can be their critical best friend, that's on their side, that's in their corner, but that can also play that counterbalance for them, that can give them that support. Because without that, the challenges are too great. And as you know, I'm a face whisperer, which is what I'm talking about when we come to the masterclass. Actually, once you learn how to read people's emotions, you'd be able to see in every conversation anybody who's feeling anxious or fearful or uncertain or angry or sad. Imagine if you could spot all of those things in your people before you left the meeting, so that you were able to create a better space for them. So now more than ever, particularly in this hybrid world, we need to be able to better communicate. Because once we can really communicate and we understand that at our base, human beings want to be listened to, they want to be understood, and they want to be respected. And as a leader, it is our job to do that for those people. But we have to also recognize that we're human beings. We're human beings too. Do you know what? When you cut me, I bleed. I'm pretty certain if I cut you, you'd bleed. Not that I'm ever going to cut anybody. So it's how do we make sure that we've got the right mechanisms of support to support our senior leaders, to give them what they need, because we're putting the weight of our organizational biggest asset, their people, on their shoulders. And we need to change that stigma. If we can change it at the top, we can permeate that through and change it at the bottom. It's about teaching leaders to be able to demonstrate vulnerability without losing credibility. And I think if we crack that, we really do crack the future of leadership.
Nice.
Wow, thank you, Kim Adele. That's really deep, and so much to learn there. It's like I could listen to you for like hours. I think I'm just going to come to the masterclass and just sit there and listen to you.
That's two of us, Doyle. Two of us, and wait till the others come on board. I mean,
yeah, and we got more of this too. So I wish we could have all been here, but yeah, no, thanks, Kim Adele. Appreciate that. Trevor, let's get to you now, Mr. Gentleman, who wants to go last. Last for the best, saving best for last.
You know what? I know who the specialists are in their particular fields, and these folk are the specialists in their particular fields. And just as both Sally and Kim are actually talking here, I mean, this thing about tough versus empathetic, you can see I'm long in the tooth enough to have come from industries, you know, old Henry Ford and I, we were talking about actually taking cars off the, you know, the roller coaster back in the early 1920s. No, I'm not that old. But I want you to know that leaders in the old days had to come across being tough, and we were discovering things like, hey, let's get out there, let's go and dominate, let's go and do all of these things. And people were at the back end of the queue. And today, I've never seen a worldwide crisis that really begun with this COVID-19, and then you add all the climate change in, and you add all of the effects to really turn the world upside down. I mean, the word for me is discombobulate, and we'll have to break that down, where leaders are discombobulated. You actually don't know whether suddenly you've discovered that you're a people-centered leader versus a cost-centric leader. And when your reserves are low, because this is all about reserves, suddenly you recognize that cost-centric is right at the fore. And then you turn around and say, well, for goodness sake, all these people I've been leading down this merry path, how am I going to tell them that half of them I've actually got to just move them out because the costs can't cover them? And this is where the Kims and Sally start thinking. But, you know, my input here is I have this little, last week we were talking about someone putting a statement there, the more things change, the less they change. I think what has happened over this COVID-19 period is that there's an adjustment to that statement, and it is the more things change, the faster they stay the same. I think I got it wrong earlier. The more things change, the more they stay the same. And today it's the more things change, the faster they stay the same. And what that tells me is that people tend to respond in crisis just like they've responded for millennia. And really, if you want to lift yourself up to the strata of the finest leaders to actually respond in business to this crisis, you've got to recognize what other people are not doing. And the people that are on this particular forum are specialized in helping leaders to get themselves to set themselves apart from the others. Because quite honestly, we've been there, we've done that. Some of us have done it for over 50 odd years. And so we've got some of the t-shirts, and it's not about, the people that have got the finest solutions to their problems are not on our panel. They're actually the participants that actually come in, that turn around and say, hey, you know what, this is a challenge that I'm facing, this is what I'm actually doing, and there's a collective discussion between everyone else that turns around and says, well, Kim says you've got 1,800 odd people, someone is discussing, well, what level of reserves have you got, and someone turns around and says, gee, in the old days, we used to work in the field of scenario planning. So what is the current scenario today? Have we got to take instant decisions? But hang on a moment. What are the HR requirements of looking after my people if I board them off over what particular period of time? When do I bring them back? How do I actually look after them? So the tough old cookie, if they don't discover that empathy is at the top of this thing, and I loved what Kim actually says, to be empathetic today, I think is the toughest thing that an old codger or a narcissistic leader can actually be able to adopt and adapt to. Because you know what, leaders, you're looking at the chief. I've got narcissist written over me for the last 50 odd years. To be empathetic as a leader, sometimes you're at the front, you're punching, and you have, I'm not saying you're going to forget about it, but you actually have to have a backup team that can shore up your particular weaknesses. And in general, the weaknesses tend to be the people who are the most important people in getting you out of this crisis going forward. So it's a hell of a conundrum. And there was another comment that I actually wanted to make. I wrote it down here. I'm going to throw in one silly idea. I think I'm going to be the department of silly ideas for this particular session. In the old days, we did talk scenario planning. I'd like to change the name of that planning or that department to the Department of Critical Absurdities. Because at the beginning of the century, we didn't think the World Trade Centers, the towers were going to come down. We didn't think that the financial sector worldwide was going to collapse in the 2008s. Here in South Africa, we thought great new political dispensation. We didn't think 67 major companies were going to be taken out overnight in the recent past over the last 3 months. Who thought that Americans were actually going to go and tackle the Senate buildings? And then this COVID, who pre-planned for that in their scenario planning, that it was either going to strip you of all your resources or it was going to make you extremely wealthy. And then on top of it, all of these things like what is Bitcoin doing to our business? Is it going to change all the currency we bring in? What are these things called NFTs? How come people in other businesses are selling one little stamp-sized picture for 167 million? Are we missing big things in our business? Listen, if you're not into leadership of a major operation and recognizing that there's a huge conundrum out there that we actually have to brainstorm together to come with some strategic ideas, and we have to create strategic direction out of all of these absurdities that are happening at a pace that we have never experienced. Man, I think it's going to be a fun day.
It is. And again, I'm enchanted by what you've been saying, Trevor. So thank you. What was it? The Department of Critical Absurdities. That's just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And that actually comes with what I'm talking about too, is that what I found in sort of the technical analytical business world is that a lot of what we consider leadership isn't quite there yet. And it's not because they're not good leaders there. It's more that we haven't prepared ourselves properly for this. And I liken that to what I call the digital expedition, where we need to be able to ensure that we have the skills, we have the capabilities. And honestly, yeah, we need the empathy, but the understanding as well to be able to take us through that journey. And to me, I felt like we've missed a lot of that in terms of what businesses are doing and how they're doing it. So we don't really know how to navigate. But guess what? When first time they went to Everest, did they know what exactly was going to happen? No. but they prepared themselves, they prepared their team, they led that journey across, they led that expedition across, across northern Canada, across, the Antarctica. Like, there's always these amazing stories of these expeditions. Why were some successful and some not? Leadership. Let's be completely honest here. Like, yes, there are some times where there were sort of circumstances beyond their control, but what could they do to recover that? And to me, that's important, because that allows us to be able to build that within our businesses, to say, look, we can be digital leaders, we can be, an empathetic leader, we can be whatever leader we want, but we have to be prepared for that. It's not a safari, just seeing and observing, rather. It's an expedition where we actually have to get down to business. We have to have plans. We have to have strategies. We have to have an understanding. We have to bring our team with us. We have to have base camps. We have to have all this stuff that they've been using for hundreds of years as we've kind of pushed the envelope of where we are and what we're doing. So that's my quick little take. Look, guys, we're running close to time here, but I'd love to finish off with just sort of a quick round robin. What can we do now to help or to push or to, kind of motivate people? And also, what are you going to be covering specifically in your topic on the session as well? So if we quickly go around the room, that'd be fantastic. Sally, you want to start?
So I have the profound privilege to be the lead facilitator on the day. So I'm not actually presenting, but I am facilitating the entire day and also contributing my expertise, which is in live coaching. Throw anything at me, any place, anytime, anywhere, on anything of a personal or professional nature. I'm a coach intuitive. I coach to cause, not symptoms. So there'll be a 2-hour segment on the day where the leaders who are attending will be able to witness real-time transformation, which in group is very, very powerful. And being able to facilitate and introduce each of the speakers will be a profound privilege also. Just in closing, as far as today is concerned, the thing I find amusing is that words like empathy and compassion, all these new buzzwords, it's like it's not new, people, we've got to learn these soft skills or feminine leadership skills, which is an insult, because they're not soft and they're not feminine leadership skills, they're human skills, which are beyond critically needed right now. But they are not new concepts. Whereas at the moment, in my observation, they're kind of like, the whole buzzword around, you now have to be empathetic. Now you have to be, it's not new. Traditional leadership as we know it is dead. We will not be returning to the linear world of hard skill leadership. So if you as an organization, or you as a leader within your organization, you think that you can continue the way that you always have, you will not last the distance from a sustainability standpoint. So part of what this masterclass is about, there's over 170, 180 years of experience in the room on that day, collectively, between us all. And we're all very different styles, all very different vantage points. But to be able to navigate the terrain, leaders are used to being in control. This is unprecedented, that leaders are not used to navigating uncertainty. And that is an area that the majority of people that are in this workshop, we specialize in being able to, as my mate Doyle here was just talking about an expedition on, this is where you're at, this is where you want to be. Businesses tolerate a lot. If you're listening to this video right now and you're tolerating not getting the results, and you're in survival mode versus thriving this experience, this is one of the most exciting times in history, the most exciting times in the evolution of leadership. And if you're tolerating it being anything other than exciting, you need to get your ass in the room. Just being straight. And we'd love to see you there.
Wow, thanks, Sally. Let's go, pitter patter. All right, Kim Adele.
I was going to say, how do you follow that? But I agree. I think over the years, we've talked about everything. We've had customer experience, we've had client experience, we've had colleague experience, we've had user experience. What we've yet to have is human experience. And yet the one thing that connects every single one of us, whether we're the leader, the colleague, the client, whoever we are, we're human. So we've got to be able to drive the right human experience. And I know from working in this that when we get the human experience right, the bottom line works for itself. So we really need to level up that skill. The fluffy people piece really is ridiculous. And I've proven that in numerous organizations. But I guess for me, what I'm particularly talking about on the day. So I specialize in leadership and communication, but on the day, I'll be talking about how you can better communicate with your people, particularly by reading micro expressions. So seeing what's not being said as well as what's being said to enable you to get everybody on the same page. Because when we're on the same page, we really can thrive.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim Adele. And Trevor.
So my comment is going to be that I believe we're living in a time of extreme contradictions. So my statement will make sense to you, that in such times we have to go back to basics. I mean, how pathetic is that? And the type of basics I'm talking about, and there's Sally representing New Zealand, I represent South Africa here, and Sally will know we are way better at rugby in going back to the basic at a skills level that allows us to win the World Cup. This is really what we're discussing about. What are those today's basics that need to be tweaked just that little bit that take us to winning the World Cup, which is the leadership of our company at the highest level that we want to achieve. So sorry, Sally, I look forward to the next World Cup, but we're working on our basics as well. But that's what we're going to do. And we're going to be looking, for me, we're going to be looking at the participants, what they are absolutely great at, and to take them to a World Cup level as best as we can by suggestion of the ideas. And by the way, do you think those coaches actually go out with a whip behind the Springboks and the All Blacks? I'd be too scared to do it. You actually make suggestions as a coach, and those players take them up if they want to take them up.
Perfect. Great summary. Thanks, Trevor. And so if I can just quickly wrap up, love what we've been saying here. Most exciting time in history. Sally, drive the right human experience. Kim Adele. Trevor was talking about human contradictions, or rather extreme contradictions, and how we can actually overcome those. And from my perspective, it's really about, we have this global opportunity. We can't take everything with us on our expedition, so we have to kind of pare it down to what's really important. And in light of that, we have an amazing opportunity where we can, like you alluded to, Trevor, we can connect around the world. I'm in Australia, Trevor, South Africa, Kim Adele in the UK, Sally Anderson in the New Zealand as well. So we have this tremendous opportunity to be able to connect with everybody around the world. So I really want to thank everybody for joining in on the show. Like I said, if you have any comments or questions, we'd love to hear you, what you have to say about the topic of empathetic leadership, mental health, and that sort of thing. We're going to post the stats as well the article rather, and hopefully we can go through that and continue the conversation as well. So we'll be back next week for, I think, our final episode. If you are interested, take a look at our landing page, Wisdom's Global Leadership Masterclass. We start on September 23rd. Go to www.wisdoms123.com/GLMC as well. So once again, thank you to all of our guests here. Look forward to serving everybody as well in the near future. So thanks again. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you online.
Bye-bye.
Bye.